Good morning. We're going to call the February 6th Cumberland County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Just as a note, Commissioner Evans and Commissioner Keefe notified that they would not be here today, and so they are absent. The invocation will be done by Commissioner Lancaster.
Okay, would you please stand? Pray with me, please. Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here this morning. We together thank you for the many abundant blessings that we have received from your hands. We thank you for life itself. We thank you for the measure of health we need to fulfill our calling for our friendship. We thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing our appropriate responsibilities. Thank you for loving us, Lord, and thank you for your gentle touch of encouragement when faced with doubt. I pray for this assembled county staff and commissioners, Lord. My prayer is that you would graciously grant us wisdom to govern amidst the conflict and interest and issues of our times, a sense of welfare and true needs of our residents, a keen thirst for justice, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, and Lord, personal peace in our lives and joy in our task. I pray for this agenda before us this evening and this morning, Lord. Please give each of us assistance for what would please you, and Lord, and benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved county of Cumberland. It is in your most blessed name I pray. Amen. Amen. Would you please declare? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning to one and all, and I'd like to recognize from the Library Board of Trustees, Ms. Katrina Tiffany. Thank you for being here. And this morning, we've got a number of recognitions we're going to do. We got recognition of the Cumberland County School Resource Officer, Jennifer Osborne, who was honored with a Hometown Hero Award. I call him Commissioner Lancaster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, thank you for being here today with your command staff. And this morning, we'd like to honor one of yours. Jennifer, this is Sergeant Jennifer Osborne. Would you please come up and stand with me, please? I did a little reading this morning, and I found that a hero is someone who is willing to help others in his or her own best capacity. It was interesting this morning to read that Ronald Reagan said something that really caught my attention. He said, those who say that we're not in a time where there are no heroes, and in this case, a shero, they just don't know where to look. Well, it's my pleasure this morning to let everyone in attendance know today that a businesswoman in Cumberland County, Bunny Powers, she knew exactly where to look, and someone knew where to look when this young lady was hired. Sergeant Osborne is a Cumberland County Resource Officer, supervisor, and she knows that she can't save everyone. There are just too many tattered lives, but many kids who have spent their lives being told that they just don't matter. But this young lady says, you got to keep trying, and the biggest part of my job every day, you remember that there are kids who just need a little nudge in the right direction. And I would say that's true for all of us today. Sometimes we just need to get caught doing something right and have a little nudge and someone that believes in them. 3 years later, after working some time at Ramsey Street Alternative School, while helping with security at the Crown during high school graduation, she heard a familiar voice holler over to her and say, "Hey, Dep, hey, Dep." She turned around, and there was this young man with his cap and gown. And she said, "I couldn't be prouder of any other graduate there at that time." In addition, on the way back from receiving, she was honored by a former governor. And on the way back, driving home, she passed a wreck. She was with her husband at the time, and there were some emergency responders that had not arrived yet, and she and her husband pulled over, and in the back of one of the cars was a 7-year-old kid who was pinned in the back seat. There was a piece of glass that had slit his throat, and another piece of glass in this child's eye. And she held his neck, and she yelled for her husband to come and help stop the bleeding. I held him in my arms, keeping pressure on the wound until the EMTs arrived, and he was still alive when we left. That's all she knew. 7 years later, she was walking down the hall of one of her schools. That year they met again. He was fine. His vision was perfect, and he remembered every detail. She said they both sat down and cried. It was one of the most wonderful memories of my life to see him well again and to know that I made a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this lady right here, Sergeant Osborne. She truly makes a difference for all of us, and God bless her.
Larry, let her talk if you want to.
Yes, she's going to shake hands with everybody, and then she's got about a 30-minute speech.
Thank you so much.
And I know, Sheriff, this is a tribute to what you are doing with your department, out and about, and want people to know that your department is all about catching people doing something right. And thank you so much. How about a few words of encouragement there, my friend?
Good morning. I would just like to say that when we put on this uniform, and 8 years ago when I put on this uniform, the only thing I wanted to do was help people, to make a difference, to change lives. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to instill in everybody else that we work with. Every day that we can go home and say, I tried, or I made a difference is a good day. It's a satisfying day. We don't ever want awards for this. This is not something that we do this for. I'm very appreciative, but I wouldn't do this just for an award. I do it because it makes me feel good and it's the right thing to do. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sheriff Osborne, if you would come up, and if y'all come, the commissioners will come in so we can get a picture. Sheriff, if you come up, it's not every day you get a hometown hero. Yeah, stand right here in front of us and look at all.
There's a dance called
Yeah, you want to show it to us?
Me first.
No, no.
I'm not going to sing it either.
Thank you. Hey, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. And we always like to recognize when the sheriff comes into the building. So, Sheriff, in his right, thank you for being here and thank you for what you do at the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah. Especially when they have a warrant.
Yeah. We like getting our picture taken on Monday morning because we know that's the best we're going to look all week.
All week long, right? That's exactly right. Again, good morning. It is a day of recognition, and today, Mr. Quigley, and I'm not going to keep him up here long, but if you come right on up, and Lisa, come on up too. Mr. Quigley has been inducted into the Agriculture Hall of Fame, And if I sat here, Mr. Quigley, and read all of your accolades, we'd be here for some time this morning. But I do want you to know that you won't see Mr. Quigley on the back of a tractor, but you will see him teaching right here in Cumberland County. He's been a volunteer. He's a master gardener. He doesn't know that I've been to a couple of the classes. My gardens doesn't look anywhere near what he has. But he's made significant contributions in agriculture in Cumberland County through his involvement with it. I'm just going to name a few. Cooperative Extension, Master Gardener Program, Key Fayetteville Beautiful, Second Harvest Food Bank, Cayfield Botanical Garden, Cumberland County Cooperative Extension, and this is the one thing I want you to know. He's given more than 8,000 volunteer hours in Cumberland County. 8,000, over 8,000. He's achieved emeritus status with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension State Advisory Council and is a dedicated member of the Cayfield Botanical Gardens. You know, when he goes to Raleigh, I go to Raleigh, they just look around and they look at me and say, who are you? But when Mr. Quigley goes to Raleigh, they say, what agriculture issue is there you here on today? So, Mr. Quigley, we want to thank you for that. And for some of us who go down to the Dickens and the Christmas, he is Scrooge, and that's what Marshall, Commissioner Faircross was talking about.
I didn't recognize him.
Thank you so very much for all that you do.
I have more fun as Scrooge than I do in any other.
I just didn't recognize him without the hat, you know.
Yeah.
Thanks for all you do, George.
It is deserved. I'm sorry.
And it also gives me a great honor to recognize the 2016 Cumberland County Outstanding Young Farmer of the Year, James Rollins Dale Jr. III. Come on up, JR. We call him JR. Congratulations. All right, let me make sure we see this right here. This is NC State, because both of us are state graduates, so come right on over. And Lisa's here. JR is the son of James and Wanda Dale. He is the proud brother of Zach and the proud husband of Charlene. We call her Charlie. Paul and Georgia Holt are his loving and supportive in-laws. He is the grandson of the late James Dale and Mavis Crumpler Dale, and the grandson of William Bruce Autry, age 90, and the late Doris Strictly Autry. JR is a fifth-generation farmer in the Wade community. His great-great-grandfather, William R. Taylor, who came from Wilson County, helped bring outstanding Thielu-cured tobacco to Cumberland County. JR's father was the outstanding young farmer for the county in 1992. JR, hometown product, graduated from Cape Fear High School in 2004, where he was a member of the FFA. In 2008, he graduated from the greatest university in the state of North Carolina State University School of Agriculture, with a Bachelor of Science degree. JR and I sincerely love the Wolfpack. There you go. JR farms with his father, who we call Rooster, and his brother Zach. His mother helps the family farm by taking care of payroll and paperwork. His farm consists of crop production of cucumbers, tobacco, soybean, and wheat. JR also helps his father and brother with the family hardware store located on the farm. Y'all go out there, buy some stuff, isn't that right? JR is known for his ability to maintain a calm and human demeanor, even when things can get hectic on the farm. In his spare times, he enjoys spending time with his wife, Charlie, and their three dogs, Gus, Loki, and Apollo, his close friends, and especially his brother, Zach. He enjoys bowling with his father, his brother, and their friend, Skeeter. All right. He and his wife, Charlie, are expecting their first child in March. Congratulations so much. And this is award 2016 Cumberland County Young Farmer of the Year Award presented to James R. J.R. Dale II in recognition of his outstanding contribution and accomplishments in agriculture. Presented by Gary Weinberger, President, Kiwanis Club of Fayetteville, November 18, 2016.
Thanks for staying in farming. Thank you.
And it always gives me honor to, we have our outstanding cooperative extension, Lisa Childers, so I want to say thank you for all you do for this county. So thank you very much. And I think Mr. Quigley was going down, so if you just check with him and we'll be good. Thank you all so very much. Thank you, Jay. I call on the county manager, Ms. Cannon, for any changes to the agenda.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I have some changes for your consideration this morning. First of all, for the consent agenda, I would like to ask that you consider adding 2 items that were considered at the Finance Committee meeting last week on February the 2nd. And those items are 1, 2I1, request for proposals for one-stop operator for workforce development. The second item is consideration of the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency single-family loan pool funding agreement, as well as assistance, procurement, and disbursement policies. In addition to that, I would also ask the board to remove the item of business number 3, which is the TDA report on expenditures for December 31st. We need to move that to another agenda.
Thank you. If I can get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we add the 2 items as presented by Ms. Cannon and remove the 1.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, signify by raising your hand.
Unanimous.
All right. Ms. Cannon,
Yes, sir. Item number 2 is the consent agenda.
anyone have any thing to be removed from the consent agenda? If
Move for-
not, Mr. Fairclough.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved in second as to the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. Item number 4 on the agenda is presentation on the regional impact analysis of potential reductions of personnel at Fort Bragg. I would ask Mr. Jackson, our Assistant County Manager, to come forward and give you a little bit of background on this process that has been culminating over the last several months.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
Not long ago, the City of Fayetteville was able to obtain a grant from the Office of Economic Administration through the Department of Defense. And the purpose of the grant was to take a look at Fort Bragg and the potential economic impact of troop cutbacks on the community. Joining us today, we have Greg McElvey. Greg is with Fayetteville State University, and Crystal Morphus, who's with Creative Economic Development Consulting. I'll go ahead and ask Mr. McElvey to come forward, and he's going to give us a presentation on the work that they've done as far as the economic impact.
If it please the board, I'd like to actually yield a few minutes to Dr. Wade, who's with the Office of Human Relations, whose office actually got the grant, to introduce the project, if I could.
That'll just take all your time, and it's going to be over quickly now. Come on up, Dr. Wade.
Good morning, Chairman Adams.
Good morning.
Morning.
To the board, Ms. Manager. Privileged to be with you today, and I won't take up too much of your time. As County Manager, as Assistant County Manager stated, the City of Fayetteville received a $299,563 grant from the Office of Economic Adjustment to conduct a comprehensive community assessment to identify the potential impact in Cumberland, Harnett, and Hope counties related to the possibility of personnel reductions at Fort Bragg. The Human Relations Department was assigned the project management responsibilities. In the back, the project manager is Ms. Patricia Tyson, a member of my staff. And the team that has done an incredible job of compiling a lot of data in a short period of time, once again, is composed of Dr. Greg McElveen from Fayetteville State University, specifically the School of Business and Economic Development, and Crystal Morphus, the CEO of Creative Economic Development Consulting. And they will make the presentation related to the regional impact analysis of potential reduction of personnel at Fort Bragg, as well as the recommendations to mitigate risk. At this time, I yield the floor to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wade. So, moving right along. So the genesis for this project was back in 2015. The Department of Defense announced that nationwide there was going to be a reduction of about 40,000 troops around the country as a result of drawdowns and wars in the Middle East and as a result of budget sequestration. They didn't know where that was going to be, but they knew that that was the target. And the Office of Economic Adjustment issued grants, and the city of Fayetteville won one of those grants to see what the impact of that might be in our area with respect to potential reductions at Fort Bragg. At the time, there were no specific reductions announced for Fort Bragg, so we, at this part of this process, looked at a range of scenarios. We looked at a range of from 1,000 to 3,000 troops, which is just to give you a sense, they're roughly 50, at the peak, they're roughly 50,000 active duty military at Fort Bragg. So this was not quite 10%, roughly up to 5% of the troops that we were looking at. We looked at, and so we were fortunate enough to have a collaborative effort with Creative Economic Development Consulting in Fayetteville State. We had economists from Fayetteville State as well as workforce development experts and business experts working with the economic development experts at Creative. We looked at both qualitative and quantitative elements of this challenge in front of us. Qualitatively, there were community input sessions. We looked at we established a steering committee, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. We looked at background studies. We didn't want to recreate the wheel. We wanted to look at what was already done. We used kind of leading edge economic analysis tools to look at what the impact of this might be in the economy. And then we've begun to compile recommended strategies. But the key reason why we're here is that this is not a done process. We actually are here to get the input of the Board of County Commissioners and county staff to see, as we relay our findings to date, to see if there's anything you'd like to direct us to do or to particularly delve into in more depth. So as part of the best practices in any kind of analysis, it's with respect to economic development, it's clear that the starting point has to be working with the community. So we established a steering committee of representatives of our municipalities, county staff, business people, and educational representatives. And the scope of this, the grant, was covering 3 counties, Cumberland County, Hoke, and Harnett, as well as specifically the city of Fayetteville. So we had representatives of each of those areas, and we've met 3 times so far at the beginning to kind of lay out the strategy. We've had a couple of interim reports and feedback with that team, and we will then be having one final review after we get your input, and we finalize, and we'll go back to the steering committee to make sure we've got it right. And I will, so I'm going to just speed right through this, but if you have any questions, please jot them down, and we will definitely want to make time for questions. So the starting point, again, was looking at what's already been written and also going to the community. So we had meetings at both at Hope County, Cumberland County, Harnett County, and the city of Fayetteville, and asked some of the community representatives, community leaders, what they saw as current strengths of the region, of their particular county, weaknesses we need to be able to kind of try to shore up. We asked about opportunities and threats they saw on the horizon. The idea was we need to really understand what's the current landscape before we talk about what might happen in the future. What are we dealing with right now, so that we can know how to build on that and best mitigate any risks. So we got lots of good feedback. I think most of these strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats will be familiar to you, so I won't go through all the details. I think you've seen the report, but clearly this is an area with much to offer, and we recognize that we have opportunities ahead of us as well. So one of the things to note about this study is that even though the genesis was potential reductions in troop strength, we also looked at this as a way to look at potential opportunities. So no matter what happened with troop strength, we're looking at ways that how can we leverage our assets to grow, and how can we build on what studies that have already been done to further map out plans to improve the prosperity of the citizens of Cumberland County. So our economists looked at quantitatively the economic landscape of